The atheism versus agnosticism debate has bothered me for a long time. I have three main issues with it. 1. Most agnostics are in fact freethinkers. This is why polls often cluster agnostics, atheists, and non-religious into the same category. If you stop to think that it may not be possible to know if there's a God, you inevitably come to the conclusion that there probably isn't a God. I don't consider simple religious doubt as valid agnostic thought, and I'd hazard to guess doubters wouldn't self-identify as agnostics. Now, if anyone has hard numbers on this, I'd love to see them. So I think that leaves most agnostics living their lives as if there weren't a God. In all practical senses, this places them in the same camp as atheists, which is why the two terms get tossed around together so much. Agnostic theists are very rare. 2. Theistic talking heads jump on the technical distinction.
This is planet Earth. And that circle there, that's the universe, the natural world. Now, the atheist and the naturalist, you see, they only believe in things inside that circle. They don't want to think about things that exist outside of it. They refuse to believe that anything exists out there. You see, the naturalist philosophy is based on things you can
They argue that agnostics are open-minded, while atheists cling to their belief as religiously as theists. They argue that God is explicitly outside the natural realm, impervious to science, and thus unknowable. This is the agnostic stance.
Senses are limited to things inside the circle as well. So if something exists outside the circle, we're not going to be able to see it, or touch it, or taste it, or anything like that.
The argument is just a remake of the God of the Gaps argument. He could always be hiding under the next rock, so it's folly to say for sure that he doesn't exist. The problem is that for sure part, which I'll jump into the next section, but first, a little analogy may help ease that transition. Consider a crime scene, a dead body, formerly Bob, and a handful of suspects. One, Jill, has 10,000 witnesses that she was at a concert on the other side of the globe. Could Jill have killed Bob? Sure, but any prosecutor that pushes that case should be fired. The murder of the Gaps argument fails at court. There's very reasonable doubt. Similarly, God, or the devil, may have carefully placed the fossils to mislead us into thinking all the world evolved naturally. But there's very reasonable doubt. I'd look to a more likely suspect, natural evolution. This is another explanation for the power of Occam's razor, just from a slightly different viewpoint. 3. And this is the crux of the matter. Agnosticism, fundamentally, is just a quirk of philosophy. This is where I'll spend the rest of the video, because I believe agnosticism should die a quick death. It has no inherent value as a category, because the divide between knowledge and belief is erroneous. They exist in the same dimension. 3a. Knowledge versus belief. Honestly, this divide baffles me. Hopefully you'll see why in a minute. There are two main definitions of knowledge. 1. The philosophical ideal of knowledge as an absolute truth, and 2. The everyday use of knowledge as a mere highly likely probability based on personal experience. 1 is unobtainable, and exists only in hypothetical or mind games. In formal logic, we get around this by givens. We assume some knowledge, and then work from there. 2 is much fuzzier, but real. All knowledge you can think of as actually 2. Gravity, economics, the sun rising, etc. Is thus the colloquial definition. From Merriam-Webster, quote, knowledge is the sum of what is known, the body of truth, information, and principles acquired by mankind. If the body of truth acquired by mankind refers to absolute truth, then it could fit 1, but it'd be empty. Even though you could swear you saw the sun rising yesterday morning, it may not have happened. Tomorrow you could wake up, your loved ones all around you, saying how you'd been in a coma for years. Or you might be in the Matrix. All you know could be wrong, so nothing is absolute truth. In my opinion, that renders 1 as a meaningless definition. On the other hand, if knowledge were mere probabilities based on experience, we could keep most or all of it, depending on our probability cutoff. Consider, once upon a time, we all believed the sun, moon, and stars were gods or ancestors. Zeus hurled lightning bolts from behind the clouds. The earth was the flat center of the universe, with the heavens above and hells below. All this was knowledge. Now this should ruffle the feathers of any respectable freethinker, because this was pre-science knowledge. It was largely faith-based, probably initially just placeholder explanations subconsciously designed to help us grapple with reality. We do love anthropomorphizing things. Major scientific thoughts have not been overturned. Gravity, evolution, relativity, quantum mechanics, etc. live on. This is the only meaningful distinction, not between knowledge and belief, but scientific knowledge/belief and faith-based knowledge/belief. The scientific process implicitly acknowledges the probabilistic foundation to knowledge. In polls, we have confidence intervals, error bars. We never say scientifically 100%. We need infinite samples to get zero error. Now, some so-called agnostic atheists may accept all this and say they are Gnostic disbelievers in a specific God, for example, Go Green 18.
I am agnostic to the Abrahamic God, okay? I assert that the God of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam is non-existent.
However, they dismiss one glaringly obvious piece of evidence, their own knowledge that all gods yet considered don't exist. This is a trend. Science is born of trends. It's inductive. The sun has risen every day for millennia of human existence. Thus it will probably rise tomorrow. The sun was not a god. The moon was not a god. The stars were not gods. The trees and oceans and weather were not spirits directly caused by gods. Yes, there still might be a god or gods behind it all, cleverly tricking us into thinking it's all natural. But that's a God of the Gaps argument, and it fails. The trend clearly points to there being no gods at all. So, in summary, if someone asks me,
is there a God?
I don't respond,
I don't know.
Because despite what Penn says, I don't know is not necessary or a reasonable response. It dismisses a lot of information. So I respond with no, because really there's no difference between belief and knowledge. All that matters is the methodology you use to gain the knowledge and your confidence in it. So I am a Gnostic atheist, in the same way that evolutionary biologists are Gnostic evolutionists, and pretty much everyone is a Gnostic sunrisingist. I strongly disagree that these stances are dogmatic.
The problem with Gnostic, yes, I know, beliefs, theism or atheism, is that it is dogmatic.
The answer to the question, is there a God, either has to be or certainly is very reasonably, I don't know.
For anyone who made it all the way through this video and still doesn't get it, I have one very simple exercise for you. Replace the question, is there a God, with, will the sun rise tomorrow? If you answer, I don't know, you have problems. I'll admit, however, that my error bars on atheism are a little bit higher than my error bars on the sun rising tomorrow. Just a little bit, though.